When Xiao Yan opened his eyes again, Xuan and Kai Lin were by his side. They were stunned. Xiao Yan smiled bitterly and sat up from the bed. When he was fighting in Heaven Pillar Peak, he did not suffer much injuries. The main reason was that the origin monarch qi in his body was too scarce and he had recovered a lot. Seeing that Xiao Yan had woken up, the worry in the eyes of the two girls dissipated. After their competition ended, the unconscious Xiao Yan was sent back by a few elders. When they saw that Xiao Yan was unconscious, they were shocked. After Elder Wu explained to them, they were relieved. Mr. Xiao Yan, Elder Wu told you to go to Heaven Pillar Peak to find him after you woke up. Now, you, Xuan said in a soft voice. Now that Xiao Yan had just woken up, she was naturally very worried. However, Elder Wu had said it first, so she did not dare to delay anything. All right, I understand. Xiao Yan pondered for a moment. After he got off the bed and put on his clothes, he suddenly kissed the two girls' cheeks and quickly left in front of their blushing faces. Oh, Mr. Xiao Yan is still the same. Xuan face was red but her smile was filled with sweetness. Kai Lin, who was by the side, also muttered, but her eyes were as gentle as water. After coming down from the heavenly peak, Xiao Yan rushed in the direction of the Heaven Pillar Peak. Hearing Xuan and Kai Lin's words, Elder Wu did not say anything when he sent them back. He did not explain what happened after he fainted. As for the battle with Zhu Tianwo, he wasn't worried. With the latter's strength, nothing would happen to him. Moreover, there was another piece of news that delighted Xiao Yan. It was the outstanding performance of the two girls on the battlefield. With the help of the heavenly soldiers, the two of them could be said to have gained the limelight. In the end, they entered the top 10 of the Soaring Dragon ranking. Although they were only ranked 9th and 10th, it was already quite difficult for them to enter the top 10 with their 5 monarch spirit strength. There were naturally quite a number of students that they had met along the way. Everyone was enthusiastically discussing the matter of the competition yesterday. Although it was a pity that no one had seen the battle of the strongest few, the competition in Central Square. It had also caused everyone's spirits to rise, especially the performance of the Inner Academy's twin pearls. It was even more outstanding, causing many people with strange hearts to involuntarily withdraw their thoughts. In Heaven Pillar Peak, when Xiao Yan arrived at the bottom of the mountain, he saw Elder Wu waiting for a long time from afar. When he saw Xiao Yan, Elder Wu nodded his head, turned around and left. Xiao Yan didn't know what to say when he saw this, so he hurriedly followed after him. I wonder why Elder Wu called me here? After following Elder Wu for a while, Xiao Yan finally could not help but ask. Elder Wu, who was walking in front, was silent for a moment before he said in a deep voice, I am not the one looking for you. It is Elder Xiao and the others. Elder Xiao? When Xiao Yan heard this name, he immediately recalled that he had been brought to a spatial zone under the Heaven Pillar Peak by Elder Wu when he had just arrived at the academy. The person who had inspected his 3 holy rank trials was the so-called Elder Xiao. Elder Xiao, what's the matter? A bad premonition suddenly surged in Xiao Yan's heart. Why would the battle between him and Zhu Tianwo attract the attention of a second-grade elder? Even if it was attention, it should be attracted by Zhu Tianwo's sacred spirit fire body, and on his body, what could attract the attention of these elders? There was only one thing. Monarch Flame. As Xiao Yan was secretly guessing, Elder Wu had already said it out loud, which was in line with Xiao Yan's thoughts. You have the Monarch Flame with you. This is a matter of great importance, and the elders pay great attention to it. That's why they called you here. They will definitely not do anything that will harm you. Xiao Yan's slightly perturbed heart finally calmed down when he heard the smile in Elder Wu's voice. He pursed his lips and did not say anything else. He followed Elder Wu to a sealed space that he had come to before. After passing through the spatial ripples, Xiao Yan and Elder Wu entered the sealed spatial zone. At this moment, there were already 5 people sitting separately in the spatial zone. One of them was actually Zhu Tianwo. Seeing Xiao Yan and Elder Wu entering the spatial zone, Zhu Tianwo raised his eyelids and glanced at the former. Although his face was still pale, his complexion was much better than before. 4 elders, Xiao Yan is here, Elder Wu said respectfully to the other 4 elders. Xiao Yan also took the opportunity to look at the 4 elders. Besides Elder Xiao and Su Ziyang whom he knew, there were also 2 old men. Although all 4 of them were second-grade elders, therefore, sitting below the 2 of them, Su Ziyang looked at Xiao Yan indifferently, and an inexplicable light flashed across his eyes. No one noticed. "All right, Chongqing, you can go down first. We have something to say to these two young men." An old woman among the two old men smiled. The wrinkles on her face were all squeezed together, and she looked extremely kind. Yes, in front of these two elders, Elder Wu did not have the slightest arrogance as an elder. He respectfully responded and left. "Xiao Yan, you can sit as you wish." The other elder was bald and had white eyebrows that hung low. He looked very kind. Xiao Yan nodded and looked at Zhu Tianwo. He found a seat and sat down. "Xiao Feng and Su Ziyang, you should have met before. Let me introduce the two of us. I, Qi Yun, am. This is the Hun family, surnamed Bai. You two can just call yourselves Grandma Bai." The kindly-looking old man smiled and said. When Qi Yun finished speaking, Elder Xiao, who was standing behind him, coughed lightly and said, "In the academy. The grade elder is a first-grade elder, and he stays at the bottom of the Heaven Pillar Peak all year round. Although Elder Qi and Elder Bai are second-grade elders, they are responsible for maintaining the Yunluo's grand formation. His strength far surpasses mine and Elder Su. He has already lived for nearly 1,000 years. They are the dean's best friend, and currently, they are in charge of the overall situation of the academy. It is truly fortunate that I came out to personally meet the two of you." After hearing Elder Xiao's introduction, Xiao Yan could not help but be shocked. Zhu Tianwo, who was standing beside them, also looked at the two old men in shock. The wild arrogance in his eyes had dissipated a lot. Elder Xiao and Elder Su's strength had already reached the peak of emperor cultivation. They were even stronger than them, and they were only monarch cultivation warriors. These two old men had never thought that they would have such strength. "Elder Xiao, you're being too harsh on us. The two of us are already half dead. We can't compare to old Yun and Madame Luo. The world now belongs to the young. We came out for the sake of the academy's future. Don't feel too pressured." Qi Yun chuckled. As he spoke, he looked at Xiao Yan and Zhu Tianwo. "Both of you are not simple. One of you has the sacred spirit fire body, and the other has the saint rank trial participant. However, back then, Mu Yuyang and Mu Yiyue were both saint rank trial participant, and the other has the illusion purple eye. We have never summoned them before. Do you know why?" Qi Yun smiled. Without waiting for their reply, he spoke in a clear voice. Although Mu Yiyu's illusion purple eye can see things that ordinary people cannot, in general, the illusion purple eye is just a supplementary eye bloodline technique. The sacred fire body is an extremely powerful combat physique. The sacred fire body is definitely stronger than the illusion purple eye. Pausing for a moment, Qi Yun turned his eyes to Xiao Yan again. In his calm eyes, there was a rare trace of excitement. "As for Mu Yuyang, although you have extraordinary talent, you still have the monarch flame. You are much stronger than him in the past." Quote, 0 inches monarch flame? He heard what Elder Qi said. A trace of shock flashed across Zhu Tianwo's eyes. He looked at Xiao Yan in disbelief. Zhu Tianwo's expression became even richer. His brows were knitted tightly, and no one knew what he was thinking. Su Ziyang, who was behind the Qi Bai elders, also mused for a moment. He looked at Xiao Yan with a surprised expression. His expression could not help but be a little strange. After which, he returned to his original state, as calm as a meditating old monk. Xiao Yan sighed in his heart. After which, he gently nodded. For a moment, he did not know what to say. "Brat Xiao, don't worry. Since we have arrived at the Yunluo Academy, this is your home. You can speak of our child. I don't dare to say anything else. In the Yunluo Academy, I think that no one would dare to rob your monarch flame." Grandma Bai's voice was hoarse, but her tone was firm. A warm smile appeared on her aged face. Su Ziyang frowned slightly when he heard Grandma Bai's words. Then, he narrowed his eyes and did not say anything. Elder Xiao, on the other hand, was beaming with joy. With these two words, it was likely that no one in the entire Yunluo Academy would dare to have any ideas about Xiao Yan's monarch flame. That old woman is right. One has the sacred spirit fire body, and the other has the saint rank trial participant. This year, the Yunluo Academy has produced a few good seedlings. Elder Qi stroked his beard and nodded with satisfaction. After pondering for a moment, he suddenly said, "Elder Xiao, how long until the competition begins?" Elder Xiao hurriedly said, "About a year." Hearing this, Elder Qi lightly nodded his head. He looked at Xiaoyan and Zhu Tianwo and slowly said, I heard from Wu Chongqing that the two of you, and his precious granddaughter and Mu Yuyang's sister, to be able to stand shoulder to shoulder with the two of you, or even stronger than you are naturally qualified to participate in the election. But 4 people, isn't that a bit too much? Grandma Bai, who was at the side, lightly snorted and said with a hoarse voice, rules are dead. People are alive. If these 4 guys can pass the trial, what does it matter if they enter the realm and valley together? The cultivation resources in the realm and valley are limited. If we enter so many places, I'm afraid. Afraid of what? Those who are capable can take the lead, but those who are not strong enough can just let them leave. Do you still expect them to fight against the other 3 academies? Xiaoyan and Zhu Tianwo were puzzled by the conversation between Elder Qi and Grandma Bai. Even Elder Xiao and Elder Su didn't dare to interrupt. Although they were both second-grade elders, they could only look up to the strength of the 2 elders. Forget it, forget it. It has been so many years. You old hag have to give me face in front of a group of juniors. Finally, Elder Qi helplessly sighed. Grandma Bai smiled and the wrinkles on her face seemed to have dissipated quite a bit. About a year later, the few of you will participate in the competition in Realm and Valley. It would be best if all of you can pass. He shook his head. Elder Qi said in a deep voice, but compared to Mu Yiyue and Wu Shaoqi, the old hag and I are more optimistic about the 2 of you. I believe that in the 4 academies competition a few years later, I believe all of you know that each academy needs 5 people. These 5 people will represent their respective academies in the battle. 5 people? When Xiaoyan heard this, he was stunned. He had never heard of this news. Zhu Tianwo, who was standing next to him, was also stunned. He didn't say anything. It seems like no one told you about it. That's right. After all, he isn't a mighty warrior from the realm and valley. It's still too early for me to tell you all about it. Elder Qi was slightly stunned when he saw the 2 of them. Then, he smiled bitterly and said in a deep voice, even so, after discussing with the great elder yesterday, the old woman and I both had our own thoughts. After saying that, Elder Qi's indifferent gaze swept across Xiaoyan and Old Man Qi. His imposing manner caused their hearts to tremble. Currently, the elders have decided to represent the 5 people of Yunluo Academy. Mu Yuyang, Lin Dao, Xiao Yi, and the 2 of you will temporarily represent the 5 of you. Of course, this doesn't represent the final decision. There is still a lot of time before the 4 academies competition arrives. If anything unexpected happens, we will discuss it again. Elder Qi's words resounded in their hearts like muffled thunder. No matter how composed Xiaoyan was, when they heard this, they couldn't help but widen their eyes. Zhu Tianwo, who was standing beside them, was also shocked. It was a long time before he said in a deep voice, Elder Qi, are you serious? The seniors of Realm and Valley. Their strength is far stronger than ours. They will represent the academy in the battle. I think it will be better. Xiaoyan pursed his lips and nodded silently. At least for now, he could feel that compared to Mu Yuyang, even if he used the Buddha Fury Fire Lotus, he was afraid that he wouldn't be a match for Mu Yuyang. Wrong. Without waiting for Elder Qi to speak, Grandma Bai chuckled. She said slowly, this old man and I have been paying attention to the few fellows from Realm and Valley all these years. I have to say, Mu Yuyang, Lin Dao, and Xiao Yi, they were much stronger than the others. Su Qingwu, that little girl, was said to be the 4th strongest person in the Realm and Valley. However, compared to the 3rd-ranked Xiao Yi, the gap was still too great. She didn't have any extraordinary experiences. She wanted to use these few years to catch up with Mu Yuyang and the others. It was simply impossible. But you guys are different. That old hag is right. Old Qi took over the conversation and continued. One of you has the sacred spirit fire body, and the other has the monarch flame. Using these few years, you can catch up to Mu Yuyang, but you can still reach Xiao Yi's level. At that time, won't the 5 strongest people of Yunluo Academy be you? After saying that, Old Qi let out a loud laugh, eliminating the worries in Xiaoyan and Old Qi's hearts. Zhu Tianwo's eyes sparkled when he heard this. He mumbled to himself, reaching Xiao Yi's level? Elder Qi glanced at Zhu Tianwo and nodded with a smile. This is the lowest requirement. If you knew this earlier, the strength of the other 3 academies would only be stronger than the Yunluo. Even Mu Yuyang wouldn't dare to be ranked in the top 3. Therefore, this year, The goal I have set for all of you is to lay the foundation of your current strength. Increase your strength by 1 level, Xiao Yan. Although you are strong, your own abilities are still too weak. I know that it is difficult to advance the fighting monarch in the lower realm, but this year, you must at least reach the emperor level and strive to be at your full strength. You will be able to escape from a monarch emperor. Old Qi's gaze turned serious as he looked at Xiao Yan and said in a deep voice. Xiao Yan's heart trembled as he opened his mouth. In the end, he didn't say anything, and only nodded his head silently. If he were to use the Buddha Fury Fire Lotus now, not to mention a monarch emperor, even an emperor cultivation warrior. However, this was obviously not a method to be proud of. Since Elder Qi had asked for it, he could only try his best to increase his strength. At that time, he would be able to escape from an emperor cultivation with just his own strength. Zhu Tianwo, your current strength is at the 5th Dao Emperor realm. In a year's time, you only need to reach the 7th Dao Emperor realm. Qi Lao looked at Zhu Tianwo, a hint of a smile flashing across his eyes. 7 paths? Even Zhu Tianwo's expression changed when he heard this. It sounded easy, but it was only the difference of 2 origin chains. However, only he knew how big the gap was. The difficulty of cultivating the sacred spirit fire body far exceeded that of an ordinary person. Even he had a difficult expression when he advanced 2 origin chains within a year. It's very difficult, isn't it? It's naturally much more difficult to represent the Yunluo in the battle against the other 3 courtyards. However, this is good as well. It's a good thing that all of you can focus on your cultivation. Elder Xiao couldn't help but laugh when he saw Zhu Tianwo's ugly expression. In his heart, he had started to have confidence in the Yunluo Academy's competition a few years later. One after inquiring about some other matters with the 2 of them, the Qi Bai brothers smiled and left. As the guardians of the academy, the burden on their shoulders was not any less than that of Elder Xiao and the rest. It was indeed quite difficult for them to find the time to meet Xiao Yan and Zhu Tianwo today. Although the 2 seniors have high hopes for you, the academy will not use all of its resources just for the 2 of you. Therefore, in the following year, you will need to search for cultivation resources by yourselves. Whether it is going to the capital of chaos to cultivate or enter the illusory spirit realm, you can use any method that you think can quickly increase your strength. After Qi Bai and Elder Su left, Elder Su suddenly smiled. His voice was awe-inspiring without any anger. Elder Xiao nodded silently when he heard this. Although Xiao Yan and Zhu Tianwo might represent the Yunluo in the battle, it was impossible for them to increase their overall strength. Xiao Yan and Zhu Tianwo nodded their heads when they heard what Elder Su said. Even if Elder Su didn't say it, they wouldn't be naive enough to think that the Yunluo Academy would spend a lot of effort to nurture them. After all, this was an academy, and it had to be at least fair. The Yunluo Academy's surroundings are very big, and it isn't a small place like the one you see. Don't shut yourself in and build cars while cultivating. If you go out and take a look, you might get a lot of benefits. Elder Xiao also raised his head at this moment and spoke in a clear voice. His gaze was dignified as he warned seriously. All right, the Elder's expectations are on the 2 of you. Don't let the 2 of you down. Elder Xiao paused for a moment. He smiled again and waved his sleeve. Don't tell anyone about this matter, otherwise, it would be a troublesome matter to draw a baseless speculation. The 2 of them nodded and agreed. Just as they were about to leave, Zhu Tianwo suddenly looked at Elder Xiao and said in a deep voice, Xiao Yan and I were unconscious during the academy's competition earlier. I wonder what the final result will be? When Xiao Yan heard this, he also looked at Elder Xiao. He was also filled with regret for that competition. Due to various reasons, the Origin Monarch Qi had been greatly exhausted. After the battle with Zhu Tianwo, they had fainted. They did not see the subsequent matches either. She did not have a better understanding of Mu Yiyue's strength. The Academy's competition. Elder Wu also told us that the 2 of you fainted at the same time. Consider it a draw. However, he also said that if the ranking was based on the battle of life and death, Mu Yiyue and Wu Shaoqi should be tied for 1st place. The 2 of you should be tied for 2nd place. As for that Lu Xiangyang, he will be last. Elder Xiao pondered for a moment and said slowly, however, the rankings of every batch of Soaring Dragon rankings will be compared on the martial dais. This time, Mu Yiyue is still the 1st, Lu Xiangyang is the 2nd, and Wu Shaoqi is the 3rd. The 2 of you are ranked 4th. After hearing Elder Xiao's words, Xiao Yan pursed his lips and did not say anything. However, a fierce look flashed across Zhu Tianwo's eyes. He mumbled to himself, Lu Xiangyang is second? Ridiculous. That trash who can't even take 5 moves from me. His voice was so soft that even Xiao Yan, who was standing beside him, could not hear him clearly. Of course, all of you have witnessed the situation of the competition that day. You all know who is stronger and who is weaker. The Soaring Dragon ranking is just a name list, it's nothing. He glanced at Zhu Tianwo. Elder Xiao laughed loudly. Elder Su, who was beside him, nodded his head and said, This kind of battle is an important indicator in the hearts of ordinary academy elders, but in our hearts, actual combat is the opportunity to test one's true strength. If you want us to think highly of you, we only need to produce evidence. After saying this, Elder Su's figure flashed and he also left this place. Elder Xiao nodded to the two of them and disappeared in the blink of an eye. Silence. Xiao Yan and Zhu Tianwo did not say anything. They exchanged a glance and left the place. Outside, Elder Wu was anxiously waiting. Seeing the two of them come out, Elder Wu wisely did not ask any questions. He looked at their expressions and seemed to have thought of something. He said in a deep voice, This time, there is indeed something wrong with the reorganization of the Soaring Dragon rankings. At least, I think Lu Xiangyang is not qualified to sit in second place. Zhu Tianwo's expression was cold and didn't say anything. Xiao Yan also gently smiled and shook his head without saying anything. Elder Su was right. The ranking of the Soaring Dragon ranking was only for the public to see. As for the true strength of the Soaring Dragon ranking, they naturally had their own plans. This time, the top 10 of the Soaring Dragon ranking will be organized by the Academy to enter the realm in Valley 10 days later. You will be cultivating in the space Mu Yuyang and the others are cultivating in for 10 days. Where is it? I think your strength will increase tremendously. He pursed his lips. He spoke once again. Realm in Valley? Xiao Yan and Zhu Tianwo were startled when they heard this. They had never thought that there would be such a benefit. You all know that the illusory spirit realm is just an extension of the illusory spirit space. The true illusory spirit space is rich in cultivation resources. Even the experts of the realm in Valley wish they could cultivate in it every day. This is much faster than cultivating in the spirit source formation. After a pause, Elder Wu continued, 10 days later, the illusory spirit space of the realm in Valley will be open to the public. The 10 of you will be able to enter it. Opening? What do you mean? Zhu Tianwo suddenly interrupted. His tone was filled with doubt. The illusory spirit realm was an extension of the realm in Valley's illusory spirit space, but the former could be entered at will. One did not even need to pay spirit origin stones. Although it was extremely dangerous, it was open all year round. It was also the best place for most of the students to cultivate. How could this illusory spirit space be open? Elder Wu smiled bitterly when he heard this. He mused for a moment before finally sighing. He softly said, You will know about it sooner or later. I will tell you. This illusory spirit space doesn't belong to the Yunluo Academy. It is owned by the 4 courtyards of the Star Domain. The cultivation resources in the illusory spirit space are incomparably rich. Anyone who saw it would be jealous. If you want to take it for yourself, the 4 great academies have fought a great war for it. In the end, after a discussion, the ranking of the 4 academies' competition will decide how long it will take to use it. Unfortunately, the Yunluo Academy was at the bottom of the last batch. In a year, it can only be used for half a month at most. Because of the mystery of the illusory spirit space, it will only appear for 5 months in a year. The rest of the time will be drifting in the air. No one knows where it is. Even the experts who are proficient in spatial power have no information about it when they enter the spatial zone to search for it. Therefore, only these 5 months will be shared by the 4 academies. Xiao Yan and Zhu Tianwo were both shocked and speechless. This illusory spirit space was actually so mysterious. In just 5 months, the Yunluo Academy only had 15 days to use. Elder Wu sighed and said, In 5 months' time, the Star Sky Academy has monopolized 2 months of time. This is the reason why the Yunluo Academy is getting weaker and weaker. The top students don't have good cultivation resources, which limited their development. Therefore, this opportunity is extremely precious. You must cherish it. Hearing this, both of them nodded their heads in agreement. For a moment, they actually had an inexplicable feeling in their hearts. 1 inch. These are all the information I know. Of course, although the illusory spirit space is rich in cultivation resources, it is also full of dangers. Take it easy when you see something good. This is my advice to you all. Elder Wu turned around and stared at Xiaoyan and Zhu Tianwo with a serious expression. Xiaoyan and Zhu Tianwo nodded silently when they heard this. They suddenly had an inexplicable anticipation towards the unknown illusory spirit space. Let's stop here. Go back and prepare yourselves. Someone will inform you when the time comes. Elder Wu sighed and shook his head. Xiaoyan, just you wait. I will definitely surpass you. Even if it's the monarch flame, the sacred spirit fire body won't be afraid. Zhu Tianwo gave Xiaoyan a cold glance. After that, he shook his body and rushed down the mountain. Wherever he went, the air was boiling hot. Xiaoyan chuckled when he heard this. A tenacity gradually surged into his eyes. It was considered not bad to have such an evenly matched opponent in the academy. After bidding farewell to Elder Wu, Xiaoyan's robes trembled and he had long since left. Sigh. Xiaoyan, Zhu Tianwo. Elder Wu looked at the back of the two as they left and pursed his lips. After a long while, his eyes became moist. If Qi did not have that seal, his strength would not be below these two. The heavens are unfair. After muttering to himself for a moment, Elder Wu shook his head and turned around to leave. On the heavenly peak, there was a green willow tree with a cool breeze. Xiaoyan casually sat on a stone bench and looked into the distance, lost in thought. Xuan and Kai Lin also quietly stood by the side. After a long time, Xuan finally softly said, Mr. Xiaoyan, Sister Lin and I are very clear about the situation in the illusory spirit realm. We just do not know what it is like in the illusory spirit space. Xiaoyan came back to his senses and said with a bitter smile. Elder Wu, he wasn't very familiar with the illusory spirit space. If he wanted to know about the illusory spirit space, the best way was to ask the people of the realm in Valley. But now, they should be preparing to enter the illusory spirit space. I wonder who they are going to ask. After pondering for a moment, Xiaoyan suddenly looked at the two girls and asked, What's the scene in the illusory spirit realm? As a part of the illusory spirit space, there must be something similar between the two. After listening to Xiaoyan's question, Xuan and Kai Lin looked at each other and said after thinking for a while. Illusory spirit realm is a place similar to a different spatial zone. There are many dangers inside. There are many ferocious beast and devil people, but these are all formed from origin cheese. After defeating them, you will obtain a large number of origin cheese. As long as you refine those origin cheese, your strength will advance. Kai Lin was the leader of the group. Lightly, her red lips parted as she said, It sounds very simple, but the environment in illusory spirit realm is very complicated. Those monsters have quite a lot of intelligence and their strength are also uneven. We treat them as prey. Similarly, they also treat us as prey. Every year, many students die within them. Xuan chuckled when she heard this. Sister Lin is exaggerating. In illusory spirit realm, there are many students who die. Xuan laughed when she heard this. There are many elders monitoring the situation. When they sense that the student is in danger, they will naturally drive him out immediately. There will not be any danger. Kai Lin snorted lightly and said disdainfully, The place where they are being monitored, the strength of those monsters are too weak. Even if they go in for a year, they won't be able to improve much. Those guys don't have the determination to cultivate at all. Xiaoyan couldn't help but smile when he heard this. With the personality of this queen, it was true that she wouldn't be able to stand being monitored when she entered the illusory spirit realm. Sister Lin said so, but when Xuan and I entered the illusory spirit realm, she took the initiative to request to be monitored. She probably thought that Mr. Xiaoyan would be notified by the elders when he comes. Xuan pursed her lips and smiled. Her eyes were like crescent moons as she mercilessly exposed Kai Lin's excuse. Kai Lin's pretty face turned red and she lightly snorted and did not speak anymore. Xiaoyan smiled but his mind quickly moved. Since it was a place for the students of Realm and Valley to cultivate, the elders would definitely not monitor the illusory spirit space at all times. This also meant that if one was not careful, death was a common sight. After frowning for a moment, Xiaoyan suddenly looked into the distance. After musing for a moment, he turned around and said, Mu Yiyue is Mu Yuyang's younger sister. This time, Mu Yuyang must have instructed her to enter the illusory spirit space. I will go and pay a visit to this senior sister and see if I can get something out of her mouth." Hearing this, the two girls were both delighted. Naturally, they had no objections. It was naturally best for them to obtain some information about the illusory spirit space. After tidying up a little, Xiao Yan went down the mountain and rushed towards the heavenly peak where Mu Yiyue was located. Although he did not interact much with Mu Yiyue, he could tell that the identity of his Saint Rank trial participant had also interested her. He had the same name as Mu Yuyang, and this was the breakthrough point. Along the way, all the students he met were excitedly discussing the new batch of soaring dragon rankings. Their words were filled with even greater respect for Lu Xiangyang. Senior Lu has suppressed Senior Wu Xiaoqi this time and is ranked second in the soaring dragon ranking. This year, the leader of the punishment department must be him. That's of course. Back then, Mu Yuyang had assumed the role of captain. Now, he has become the strongest person in the realm and valley. Although Senior Lu is ranked second, with his position as captain, it will be easy for him to enter the realm in valley. That Saint Rank trial participant also has the same name. Although he has defeated Bai Yangchao, he is only ranked fourth with that Zhu Tianwo. He can't even be compared to Senior Mu back then. ... Along the way, the sounds of discussions could be heard without end. Xiao Yan only smiled lightly when he heard this. He did not even have the mood to correct it. He directly rushed towards the heavenly peak where Mu Yiyue was located. Although there were some people who recognized Xiao Yan, the former had already left before he could finish his words. Wei Yu Peak. This was the name Mu Yiyue had given to the heavenly peak. As the number one heavenly peak in the inner court, the density of the origin monarch Qi on it was much greater than the heavenly peak where Xiao Yan lived. On top of the mountain peak, the density of the origin monarch Qi was much greater. The green grass was like the grass, the pine trees and cypress, and the gurgling stream. It was like an elegant garden. Chinger, let's go down the mountain for a while. A rare guest has come. Mu Yiyue stood in a pavilion with a purple ribbon tied around her waist. She wore a white dress and her black hair cascaded down like a waterfall. She was extremely beautiful and her eyes shone with a purple light. Suddenly, she turned around and smiled as she softly said. A beautiful maid who was not far away was stunned when she heard this. She did not dare to hesitate and nodded her head. Then, she walked down slowly. Mu Yiyue faintly smiled as she stared at Chinger's departing back. She mumbled to herself, Saint Rank trial participant. You must have come for the matters of illusory spirit space. Being praised by Big Brother, you are indeed not bad. As she spoke, Mu Yiyue took light steps and sat on the stone bench. She sipped her tea and quietly waited for Xiao Yan's arrival. After a while, a clear voice came from afar. Senior Mu's illusion purple eye is indeed powerful. You can see Xiao Yan's arrival at the top of the mountain. As she spoke, Chinger brought Xiao Yan to Mu Yiyue. Xiao Yan's face was filled with amazement, and the shock in his eyes couldn't be concealed. A mere minor technique, how can it be compared to your identity as a Saint Rank trial participant? Mu Yiyue lightly smiled, and waved her sleeve. Chinger had already poured a cup of tea for Xiao Yan. Sitting in front of Mu Yiyue, Xiao Yan stared unconcealed at the former's eyes and slowly said, given Senior Mu's intelligence, she should have already guessed Xiao Yan's intention of coming here. Mu Yiyue blinked her eyes and laughed. She probably guessed it. This is the only thing that can make a Saint Rank trial participant like you bow down and come here. Quote. Xiao Yan did not feel embarrassed when he heard that and drank all the tea in his cup. He looked at Mu Yiyue and said seriously, since that is the case, I hope senior sister can tell me the situation in illusory spirit space in detail. Mu Yiyue smiled when she heard that and said casually, I heard that Xuan and Kai Lin have also entered the soaring dragon ranking and are ranked 9th and 10th. Xiao Yan nodded his head and said in a deep voice, that's right. If I was alone, I wouldn't have bothered senior. Mu Yiyue lightly nodded her head and took a sip of tea and said with a smile that was not a smile, it is rare for you to have this kind of heart. Xuan and Kai Lin did not misjudge the person. Pausing for a moment, Mu Yiyue looked at Xiao Yan and said in a low voice. At the peak of Heaven Pillar Peak, when you fought with Zhu Tianwo, the flames you used, were they monarch flames? Speaking up to this point, a purple light appeared in Mu Yiyue's eyes, as if she had seen through Xiao Yan. Nodding his head silently, Xiao Yan did not deny it. This kind of thing could no longer be concealed. As the opponent became stronger in the future, the Monarch Flame would become an ultimate skill that he would frequently use. Furthermore, with Mu Yiyue's intelligence, she would have guessed it long ago. As expected, I have always heard that the power of the Monarch Flame is mysterious and hard to find. I never thought that it would appear in front of me today. Mu Yiyue couldn't help but smile when she saw Xiaoyan admit it. She gently nodded her head and said, "My brother is Mu Yuyang. You should know that. My dream has always been to defeat him. But now it seems impossible. It just so happens that your identity is the same as his. Both of them are Saint Rank trial participants, and with the Monarch Flame, you can make up for the gap between you and him at the same time. Originally, I was going to fight you in the Heaven Pillar Peak. Unfortunately, you have fainted. Let's take this opportunity to have a fight, how about it?" Mu Yiyue stuck out her tongue. Her appearance was very playful, but the fighting spirit in her purple eyes was exceptionally vigorous. Seeing Xiaoyan's slightly surprised look, Mu Yiyue curled the corner of her mouth and said, "Of course, you can also think that I am taking the opportunity to threaten you. But don't worry, no matter who wins or loses, I will tell you in detail. I will not hold back at all." Mu Yiyue smiled, then a cunning look flashed across her eyes. "However, if you can defeat me, I will tell you all the secrets about the illusory spirit space. These secrets were discovered by my brother when he entered the illusory spirit space. Even in the entire realm and valley, I don't think there are more than 3 people who know about it." Hearing this, Xiaoyan's original plan to deal with the situation became active. He took a deep breath and said in a deep voice, "What secrets?" Mu Yiyue smiled and said, "I heard that Xuan and Kai Lin both have a heavenly weapon, but even so, their strength is still too weak. Illusory spirit space is also an extremely dangerous place. Secret? Naturally, it is a safe place." Upon hearing this, Xiaoyan could no longer sit still. Mu Yiyue's words had completely shattered the last trace of hesitation in his heart. "All right." Letting out a breath, Xiaoyan suddenly stood up. His eyes stared intently at Mu Yiyue as he smiled and said, "Are we going to fight here? I'm afraid that all the plants in your mountain will be burned down." Mu Yiyue curled her lips and said, "Of course not. It would not be good to be disturbed by others when we fight here." As she spoke, Mu Yiyue extended her slender fingers and pointed towards the mountain path in the distance, that is the outer area of the academy. "Where do we fight? No one will care." Xiaoyan raised his head and looked. The mountains in the distance were majestic and vast. It was indeed a good place to fight. "Let's go. Where can we go? If we can't defeat brother, then defeating you will be our last regret." Mu Yiyue's eyes curved like the moon, and she smiled sweetly. In the next moment, her beautiful figure moved, and she was the first to move down the mountain. Xiaoyan grinned when he heard this and followed closely behind. He was also very curious about Mu Yiyue's strength. He had never seen her make a move before. This time, it was also an opportunity. Realm and Valley. Ever since the inner courtyard competition ended, all the students of Realm and Valley were preparing to enter the illusory spirit space. There were only 15 days of opportunity in this year, so naturally, none of them would miss it. If they were lucky, 15 days of cultivation inside was equivalent to a year of bitter cultivation in the outside world. I still underestimated the Saint Rank trial participant. To be able to fight Zhu Tianwo to a draw, his strength isn't weak anymore. On the heavenly peak where Yuan Tianmu was located, Zan Kai's brows were tightly knitted as he muttered to himself. Yuan Tianmu, who was standing by the side, shook his head upon hearing this. He did not say anything, but his heart was filled with a myriad of emotions. Back when he first met Xiaoyan, the latter was no match for Li Yin, who was merely at the peak of Monarch King. Originally, he thought that this was the only strength he had. Unexpectedly, this brat still had some tricks up his sleeve. In the battle in Heaven Pillar Peak, the combat strength of Xiaoyan had erupted. Even he was somewhat shocked. He had achieved so much in just a month after entering the academy. In all these years, he was afraid that only Mu Yuyang had achieved so much. This time, Xiaoyan was going to be added to the list. There are still 10 days until the opening of the illusory spirit space. During this period of time, do you think you can kill that Emperor Cultivation Heavenly Beast? Zan Kai suddenly looked at Yuan Tianmu and said in a low voice. Yuan Tianmu was stunned for a moment, then he shook his head solemnly and said, "Let's put it down first." With our strength, it will be difficult for us to kill an Emperor cultivation-level heavenly beast. If we get injured again and miss the opening of the illusory spirit space, then the loss will outweigh the gain. Zhang Kai silently nodded his head. Just as he was about to speak, Yuan Tianmu sighed and said, "You have seen the battle in Heaven Pillar Peak. Wu Shaoqi and Lu Xiangyang's strength are average, but if Mu Yiyue, Xiao Yan, and Zhu Tianwo are given enough time, once they enter the realm in Valley, the power of the realm in Valley will definitely be reshuffled." Zhang Kai's facial expression changed slightly. He opened his mouth but did not know what to say. The reason he supported Zhu Tianwo was because he wanted to use the latter to suppress Mu Yiyue and Wu Shaoqi, but he did not expect that Xiao Yan would jump out and tie with Zhu Tianwo in the competition, making Mu Yiyue the first place once again. This was something that he did not expect. Just wait and see. This time, I must advance to the Monarch Emperor in illusory spirit space. After a while, Zhang Kai suddenly spoke fiercely. His eyes were filled with intense fighting intent. Facing the sudden rise of Xiao Yan and Mu Yiyue, even someone as proud as him felt a trace of panic. Yuan Tianmu only sighed slightly when he heard this. He didn't put Zhang Kai's words in his heart. It was very easy to break through to the Monarch Emperor. In the realm in Valley, those who had broken through to the Monarch Emperor would also be able to do so. However, there were only Mu Yuyang and Lin Dao. While Yuan Tianmu and Zhang Kai were talking, above another heavenly peak in the realm in Valley, a young man was sitting on the ground. He was wearing a green robe, and his hair was thick. There was a lazy aura hanging between his brows, and he was playing with a red bead. "Who is this Xiao Yan? He can fight Zhu Tianwo to a draw. I have also heard about the ability of the sacred spirit fire body from my grandfather. He can suppress all flames in the world." Xiao Yi's face was expressionless as he stared at the bead in his hand. He did not say a word, but his mind was moving quickly. There are 10,000 fires in the world. Xiao Yi's eyes sparkled. He pondered for a moment before his expression suddenly paused. The bead in his hand also cracked. Monarch flame. An intense light suddenly erupted from his eyes. Xiao Yi's tightly knitted brows finally relaxed, and his body trembled. It's definitely a monarch flame. There is a monarch flame sealed in the Xiao clan. This Xiao Yan actually possesses a monarch flame. No wonder Zhu Tianwo isn't a match for him. Taking a deep breath, Xiao Yi's eyes sparkled. Finally, the smile on his face became bigger and bigger, and finally, it turned into a wild joy.